Hello, Sharif here. And today, another full day, we're still going to be working on the 12 global challenges. And I'm looking forward to this. Um, I'm looking forward to keeping it condensed enough that I don't go way over my time limit. Speaking of time limits, the first thing we do, as most of you know, is a short 5-minute meditation to get us in the right frame of mind, to get us in the right uh, frame of mind and heart, so that we can really work on this and not run around like people with our heads cut off, like most of the people in our world. So let's go ahead and start our 5-minute timer. I will invite you to close your eyes if you are comfortable with that. I'm going to ask you to square yourselves, to make your shoulders back, don't hump your back. And I'm going to ask us to do a couple of deep breaths together. I'll ask us to breathe in, hold for a second, and then breathe out. Breathe in, hold for a second, breathe out with the ah. Ah. One more time, breathe in, hold, breathe out. Focus your awareness in your heart. Feel your heart expand to the closest living beings near you right now. And if you can start your process of coming back to our center and sharing the next bit of time with me, with us. And as you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes and let's begin. So, we started off our time on Monday talking about the 12 global powers, uh, 12 global challenges. We are the 12 global powers. Um, and we talked a bit about what I call the big four, and that is security, water, food, and energy. We talked just a little bit because when we do our work starting in September, we're going to talk a lot about them, and we're going to be discussing a lot about them. We're Today we're going to focus on the next four: health, politics, economics, and education. Now, um, I I'm we may wind up talking about all of those in fully and enough today. We may wind up talking about them on a surface level and going back to them depending on how far we get today. So the key to that is let's get started. So with the second, actually, it's not even a second tier. I purposely let me put this back up. I purposely designed this circle not to be intuitive in any way. This is not alphabetical. It is not um, by color coding. It's not. It doesn't group these in any way, and that I think when I talk about the big three or the big four, that's really an accident. I don't have them grouped in any way. So each one of these circles affects the other circles. So, and I have a graphic that's not, I don't have handy, but I just basically draw lines from one circle to the other circle, and it forms this mosaic that is pretty amazing. Um, but when you talk about water, you of course you're talking about security. When you're talking about water, of course you're talking about habitat. When you're talking about water, of course you're talking about health. And so all of these things collide together and give us our the world that we're in. Um, but what we're going to do right now is look at that next four levels, and look, we're going to take health first. Um, the world is suffering from bad health. Most of our bad health is being brought upon ourselves. We are the ones that are the creators of our bad health. Um, the uh, if we don't um, if we're eating normal food, if we are um, uh, consuming cigarettes, if we're doing the junk food route, if we're having the sedentary lives that I know that I'm living right now, not as sedentary as I used to be. I'm happy to say, but still sedentary. Then we are damaging our own health. Now, the world divides though into two. Um, camps of bad health with this tiny sliver in the middle of good health. Um, One level of bad health is people who are in what we call the third world and a large parts of the second world, where you just simply don't have access to any health care, to decent health care. Um, I was doing some work with the United Nations some decades ago, and one of the things they told us was that uh, I was in Uganda, and the UN folks there said, "You will never see the inside of a Ugandan hospital." So if you're in a car accident in Kampala, we will get you to an ambulance that will get you to a plane that we keep waiting, that will fly you to, medevac you to Germany, and you'll get treated in Germany, not in a Ugandan hospital. He said the only thing that will happen to you in a Ugandan hospital is that you'll get AIDS. You won't get any medical treatment because the the doctors don't have the medicine, they don't have the surgical equipment, they don't have any of the stuff that they need to treat you. Um, oh, and by the way, we were traveling with this kind of um, uh, traveling physician's bag with all the different kinds of drugs you could put in it, and along with surgical equipment. So if you had to have surgery, you would give your doctor the scalpel. You would give your doctor the painkillers. You had all this in a bag. And at the end of my tour there, the 3 weeks there, um, we went to a hospital and we just handed this bag to one of the doctors there, and he almost started crying. I mean, this it was like it was like Christmas, and I was Santa Claus. Um, so on the one hand, we have this amazingly low quality of healthcare. On the other hand, you have the US healthcare system, the most expensive system in the world, and you still have a low quality of healthcare. You've got all the bells and whistles, but you've got a crippling bureaucracy, a uh, an amazing level of ignorance about what makes you sick and what makes you well. Doctors who are treated and sometimes act like gods, like I know better for you than you know for yourself. Um, Back in the 1950s, when a woman had a baby, they after she had her baby, they would immediately test her breast milk to see if she could feed her baby. And they kept coming up, no, your milk is too weak to sustain your child. Nobody asked the question. Maybe our test isn't right. Maybe we should wait a few days and test it again. But no, they know some your breast milk is too weak, so we're going to give you formula, and you're going to go home with the formula and start feeding your baby formula, and you're not going to breastfeed your baby. Well, that's what happened to me, and I mean millions upon millions of other babies, and we were always sick. We were always, I was in and out of the hospitals. We didn't have what our mothers were trying to give us at that time. At that moment, when we were just born, the last thing in the world we need is food. We've been getting food straight from our mothers for 9 months. We didn't need to be eating anything. What we needed was a very specific cocktail of antibiotics and probiotics. And the delivery system for that cocktail was our mother's breasts. She was manufacturing this stuff. And Dr. Pencilneck back in the 1950s had no idea that women could do this, could create um, antibiotics that were better than they could ever come up with, and that this is nature's way, not human consciousness way, but nature's way of giving us a all the things that we need to survive. If we recognize, okay, this is the healthcare argument. If we recognize that nature knows more than we do, and that um, we can know the system, know nature's system, by just opening ourselves to that system, we'll be able to see some things that we'll be able to interact in ways that are more appropriate to who we are and where we are. Nature knows that what we need to eat. You put it in front of a kid, they won't eat it. If you destroy their decision-making tools, then they'll eat anything. They'll eat everything. And I am so far behind right now. Okay, half the stories I just told were not written on my little cheat sheet here. So when we ask the question, what is our intention regarding health? What we should be intending is creating a healthcare system that provides the highest quality health for all living beings at the lowest cost to any living being. As soon as you say that, we know what it looks like. It looks almost exactly the opposite of what we have here in America. It starts looking like the healthcare systems in countries that have I don't like using the word socialized medicine. I would like to introduce the concept of colony medicine, that all of us live in a colony, and that the colony provides you with health at no cost. The colony expects you to be healthy at your responsibility, which means I want to sit here and smoke cigarettes, and then when I start coughing, I want you to fix me. That's a very old way of thinking, and that is among all the things that we have that we need to transcend. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next level on the next bubble on our 12 global challenges, which is politics. I'm actually going to take politics and economics together. And when you put the two of them together, that might be the big one. Okay. Politics and economics may be the driving force to a future that works for all, or it may be the biggest obstacle that we have, the biggest thing that's keeping us in alignment with the status quo. Right now, we have literally thousands of political systems. Right now, each of us is layered with political systems. You start counting them. There may be 15 or 20 different layers of political systems that are governing your life right now. Okay, so you're sitting under a federal level layer, you're sitting under a state layer. There may be several different kinds of state layers, several different levels of state layers, regional, etc. There could be water districts, and all this is before you get to the city level, and then city districts, and um, you've got all these layers, but those layers don't make your life better. They just make your life more complex. Um, so, um, and one more time, the turning the phone off doesn't stop my wrist from ringing. Um, so, so the how would we create or recreate a new politics? Well, the clearest level is, first of all, forget the old one. Okay. Um, Somebody asked me a question back when Obama was running for the first time, what I thought about Obama becoming president, and was I supporting him? And after reflecting for a bit, I said, if I could clone myself 600 times, so not clown, but clone, so that I became the president of the United States and every senator and every congressman and have 9 clones left over for the Supreme Court. If I could sit in every single seat, our system would be completely screwed up. And I really trust me. I like me. I think that I'm a relatively intelligent person. I think my heart's in the right place and I would do a good job. But that doesn't stop the system from continuing to grind us up. Having someone who is likable, having someone who is, um, uh, charismatic, et cetera, has nothing to do with whether or not the political system is toxic. Taking me as an individual and putting me in that system is guaranteed that I become toxic. The system is not built for an individual, and the system will not work for an individual. It's time that we had a system that works for all living beings. So that should be our intention. Since we know for a fact that that is not the intention of the Democratic Party, that is not the intention of the Republican Party, that that's not the intention of the Libertarian Party, that's not the intention of any of the parties that are running for um, wanting to trying to control this mess. Since it's not the intention, let's stop trying to affect that, and let's start the process of um, creating another system. Um, I said this, and I still got the slide here. If you don't know how the game is played, make up your own game. If you don't know how the game is played, make up your own game. When I see the comments, again, on the left and the right about kind of regular people, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that. No, you can't do any of those things, because I'm one of the few people that's actually read the Constitution. It just says you can't do it. So my suggestion is that we make up a whole new game. We play with ourselves. We play this game for ourselves. We play this game, and this is not an adversarial game. It's not a I win, you lose game. This is how do we all win together game. There's some people on the planet for whom this game is not, the idea of playing this game is not theoretical. When you don't have enough food to eat, you start living your life in a very different way. And I used to think that I was cursed growing up uh, poor, growing up in a situation where we didn't have enough to eat. We didn't have enough food in the house to feed three hungry mouths. Well, four, including my mother. We didn't have enough to keep enough money to keep a roof over our heads. I know what it felt like to move into a condemned house and think that you had just moved up. And I'm not saying that for you to feel sorry for me. All that helped me to become who I am. I am saying it to say that the immediacy of that situation gets you focused on, I've got to figure out how to get food today. I've got to figure out how to get a roof over my head today. But I'm saying that we need to start playing a game. And the game is, let's think about tomorrow and the next day and the next day. Let's think about a new system. The new system is waiting for us right now. The new system is waiting for us to wake up to it. Those of us who have the luxury, and it is a luxury and a privilege, those of us who have the luxury and the privilege of having enough food right now in the refrigerator that they don't have to go to the store, having their bills paid to the point that people don't walk in, knock on the door, and start taking furniture out. When you have the luxury of security, you have a responsibility, and that responsibility is to pass it on, to help other people who don't have that luxury be able to help make the decisions that will lead to a whole new reality, a whole new society. Say one more thing about economics, and I am then going to make a decision about education. Um, okay, story coming up about economics, and then we're going to just go ahead. I'm going to continue on to talk about education. So we're going to go another 10 minutes, maybe 15. Okay. This happened at the end of the Civil War. The South was devastated. The northern troops made sure of that. Destroyed all economic structures in the South, and the newly freed Black people started doing what they knew how to do, which is grow cotton. They were growing it on land that used to be the plantation owners, but now they were owning these small lots. No one owned their own mill, their own cotton gin. So you take your cotton, you take it to the mill to get it ginned. And I used to know why they called it a gin. Oh, an engine, a cotton separating engine. So it's just a cotton gin. And so, and the white cotton gin owners wouldn't gin black cotton. This is where I say it's not about racism. They wouldn't gin white cotton either if unless you were a rich landlord, a plantation owner. The small white farmers and the small black farmers would not um, were not able to get their crops to market. So they came together into something that was called the Grange. And the Grange was just an association of small farmers, small black farmers and small white farmers. And they said if the local gin won't gin our cotton, we just drive together. We have the resources to drive it to the next gin, and or then even the next gin, and we can gin our cotton together and get a better price, a higher price. And this started to turn into an economic engine. I mean, like this the notion of the Grange of the poor small black farmer, this poor small white farmer getting together and figuring out how to solve their problem. Well, this is something that was intolerable to the gin owners. So they paid a bunch of ruffians some money to drive a wedge between the white and the black farmer. And they did that by paying these guys to put on robes and call themselves a Ku Klux Klan and start terrorizing the black farmers, making them think that it was the white Grange, the white small farmer as their enemy, and literally drove a wedge that still exists in our society today. So it's about economics. It's about looking beyond this person to their economic connection. Is this person of value to the entire system, as opposed to how does this work out for me? Okay, I'm going to move along now. So in our on our circle, the next circle is education. And as you well know, the education system is very complicated, very expensive. Operating schools is very difficult. You need professionals that do that, etc. Now, I just used a bunch of words. The words were designed to trigger something in you. I said to you, education system. I said to you the word school. When I say these words, in your mind, there are people that you see a room with a desk and a chair, and they're all facing the same way, and there's a person standing up in the front of it with a teacher called a teacher, and they were telling you things, and you had on top of the desk you had a book, and in the book there were words, and all of that is what gets triggered when you say the word education. One of the most difficult things that we're going to have to do is to get all that stuff out of our minds. That's the culture of education. That's the culture of education in our society. It's the culture of education that we've managed to infect in other societies. But is that the best way to teach a child what they need to know in terms of their future lives? I would argue, hell no. But being able to walk beyond that system is asking a lot. Right now, the system that we have, the system of education that we have, is what do we need to do to teach and to learn how to keep everything exactly as it is? How do we teach the status quo? Well, if what you want to do is teach the status quo, we've got the best system in the world for that. If the status quo is killing us, then we've got a system locked in place that's going to keep that killing taking place. Some of you have heard me say this story before. Um, I don't like doing lectures in elementary schools. That's one of the few groups of people I try my best not to talk to for a lot of different reasons. We don't have time to go through all the reasons. But I got arm twisted into doing this some years ago. And one of the things I was saying was how, on a level that kids can get, I was saying this to a bunch of kids that the education system doesn't work because they're teaching inappropriate things. And I gave them a lesson and an example of that. I was saying, when I was growing up in Camden, New Jersey, like 40 or 50 years prior to them, um, I said the dynamics of Camden had changed, but the school system was teaching us square dancing. And so we were in this trash strewn playground, and we were doing the do-si-do on, used heroin needles, and the blood from the fight the night before, etc. That, and I'm describing this, and this kid raises his hand and says, "They're teaching us to do square dancing." And I looked over at the teachers, and all the teachers are trying to hide. They're hiding their faces, etc. Um, I couldn't believe it, but it's in the curriculum, so we're going to teach it. So our challenge is not how we keep teaching the same thing over and over again and calling ourselves these children learning. Our challenge is how do we teach and learn and live in a 21st century that works for all living beings. I'll give you two examples of that. When I was in Ladakh, which is northern India, southern China, let's say eastern Pakistan, and western Tibet, right up in that spot there. Um, a Ladakhi child can throw a rock and at 50 feet hit a very hungry and very determined wolf trying to steal sheep from their flock. Now, think about what you were doing when you were 5 years old. Could you throw a rock so accurately you could hit that wolf and make the wolf go away? If you couldn't do that, if you could not do that, there was a chance that the wolf could get your flock, which means your family doesn't eat. There's a chance that wolf could get you. Are you paying attention? Are you do you understand what you would need to be paying attention to to keep your family safe, to keep your flock safe at 5 years old. Another example of school. My friend Ilarion McCurliffe is a Aleutian native, and he was telling me about an experience that he had growing up, and growing up in a completely I don't like using the word indigenous, but a completely natural environment. And he would, at 7 years old, he would go out with the other men in the on the in his community, and they would hunt seals. And so they're on the shore, and there are scores, hundreds of sea lions and seals, well, hundreds of sea lions, thousands of seals swimming by their spot. And the 7 or 8 men are sitting there just waiting. And they're ranked in order of age. And the eldest was the one that was leading the hunt. And they would sit there and they would wait for the right sea lion. When the elder spotted the right sea lion, when the elder could feel the right sea lion, he would indicate to the men which one it was. And sometimes he'd just say, ooh, and they all could see which one would come up to the surface to breathe for like a second. It's like, okay, that one. And they'd wait until it came back up again. And they'd wait until it came back up again. And he said, when they fired their guns, they all fired at one as one. You heard one shot. Now, what are our 7-year-olds doing? How are they how can they contribute to this society? The answer is they can't. Even when they turn 20, they can't contribute to the society, which is why so many of them can't get jobs. Okay. Or the only way you can contribute to society is to make my cup of coffee, as though that's a necessary element of our society. We're living in a society that is desperately trying to mechanize more and more of our society without understanding why we're trying to mechanize it. So the question is, how do we create a system that truly educates us in the techniques of our survival and our thrival in a 21st century that works for all living beings? Until we get that question answered, everything else is going to be screwed up. And if we don't want things screwed up, we should not continue that process. So, as we're continuing this series, we have to ask the question: what are my intentions regarding health? What are my intentions regarding politics? What are my intentions regarding economics? What are my intentions regarding education? It's asking and answering those questions that starts our process of answering the 12 global challenges, not just for ourselves personally, but start answering the questions for all of us as a whole. Okay, I'm glad you hung with me to get that. Um, I don't want to say completed. I just to get all that touched on. When we get together on Monday, we'll go through the last four um, of our 12 global challenges and start tying all this together. Look forward to doing it. May all beings be well. May all beings be secure. May all beings be happy. Thank you. Have a good weekend. And I will see you at our next connection.